back to the Unleashed podcast for a bonus episode with Chip Wilson, who is the athletic director at Mount Vernon Nazarene University. If you have not listened to the episode before this one, stop right now and go listen to that, because we are just going to jump right into content and questions, and we're excited to know about who you are just as a person outside of being an athletic director.
Yeah. I think we spent a lot of time talking about your role as an athletic director. I think I want to speak more on the personal side of things.
Yeah, let's do it.
Because this is just my belief. I believe that, what's below the surface, what you do behind the scenes matters more than anything else. And so that's why I ask these questions. Mm-hmm. It's going back to purpose. Purpose begins with what people don't see. Mm-hmm. And so I'll start with this one. And I think this is important. What are your core values that keep you grounded in your family, in your life, the way you work, the way you train, however it is? What are your core values when you look on your life? Yeah,
well, I mean, I think, God, family, and everything else. And that to me is not always who I have been, but who I'm striving to be. And there's checks on that. You check yourself and make sure your priorities are in order. But I think that's a big one that I try to keep in mind. Hey, also, I just think about just the value of people. That's one of my prayers that I really I pray this almost every day. I guess it's part of my routines. But I just pray that God would allow me to see the things that I want him to that He wants me to see, hear the things He wants me to hear, and really to have the courage to do something about it. Mm. And I just see, I really want to see people through God's eyes and not my own. That's and I just, I think people are very valuable. And I don't think we, as people, I don't think we always give the right value to people that we should.
Oh, that's really good. That's really good. When you talk about God being one of your number one values, what are some things that you do personally in your life to make sure that He's the number one priority? Yeah,
I think there is a song that I think
sing it.
I think God speaks to everyone in different ways, right? I think, but I really do feel I feel God talking to me through music. I love music, and it's a country song. It's not a Christian song, but it's called "Love Like Crazy." But there's a line in there. It's a song by Lee Brice, and he says, never let your praying knees get lazy and love like crazy.
That's good.
And I just think, that's something that I think there's a lot of power in prayer. And I have not always been good at prayer life. Yeah. But that's something that I always, if I am exhausted from a long day, and all I want to do is go to bed. I've had days where I've gotten into bed to go to sleep. My kids, my wife, everybody's asleep, and I get home late or something from an athletic event or something or travel. I have caught myself, and I have gotten out of bed, just to take a little time with the Lord. And I've tried to do better with that because I do think there's a lot of power in relationship with Christ and a lot of power in prayer.
That's good.
That is really good.
I think it made me question, Chip, at what point did you start liking country over 80s music?
80s is still on my list, man. I like the monster ballads.
We used to sing a lot to 80s music.
Yeah, absolutely.
We had CDs. What do we call those? Like, they weren't mixed tapes because we moved up to CDs.
CDs, man. Yeah. Right. They were mixed.
Toto, Africa. Yeah. I remember
that's still on my playlist.
Our sophomore year, at one point, one of our roommates bought like these massive speakers. Yeah. And we were just blaring Toto.
Yeah.
Africa.
There's no doubt.
Like, that was whole Cypress neighborhood could hear it. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Anyway.
He said, anyway, it's fine.
Little side note. Yeah.
Side note, we love 80s music. I want to talk about how do you know? What's the marker that lets you know I'm succeeding in my work and with my family, and even in my faith life? Like, how do you know you're succeeding in each of those areas?
I think there is I think when I'm looking at my family, I look at just the I think I look through the lens in athletics, right? Wins and losses. Some people say, well, they're 10-0, they're successful. They're 2-8, they're not very successful. I don't see things as through a lens of wins and losses.
Okay.
I really see things through the culture of the program, the team, the culture of my family. What are the things that are we talking? Are we getting along? Are we spending time together? Those are things that I can look at and say, man, I'm successful as a husband, as a dad. My wife was just telling me this morning, I was at an event a few nights ago, and she's like, hey, Cole and Emma and I just sat around for 3 hours and talked. And I was like, what?
That's cool.
I missed it, but I just thought that was so cool that they spent those hours talking, however many hours it was, right? But I just think that those are the things that I really view as a success when people are communicating, when they're talking, even if there's conflict or trouble, but they're talking about it, right? They're working through it. I think that's success in my mind.
That's good.
Yeah.
Really
How do you gauge that in your work environment?
Yeah. Well, so I think there is like I think too the same thing. So like for me, I'm working with our coaches a lot. Yeah. There are moments where I'll say, man, I need to check in with. I haven't talked to them, right? I haven't talked to them in a few weeks. I'm not doing a very good job as a leader in that way. But I do think about our coaches individually, and how much time I'm spending with them and for them, and make sure I'm listening to them. I always want to make sure they feel valued and heard. And I don't always do well with that. I don't, but I that's on my mind that I really try to check myself. Yeah.
Well, and I always tell people, like, it's as long as you are aware of the tension, it's never really a problem.
That's a good point.
It's the moment that you lose the tension of, oh, I haven't checked in with them.
Yeah.
we see not checking in as the problem, but it's like, no, it's when you you just lose the tension of checking in, that becomes the problem.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So, how do you stay motivated?
Yeah.
I mean, this, sometimes I don't think I'm a very motivated person. My wife argues that. Sometimes I feel lazy.
I think you're so motivated.
How do you stay motivated?
Oh my gosh.
Like on days when you're like, man, I would just love to phone it in.
Yeah. Well, I think, it's really interesting. I went to a professional development opportunity back in June, and I had the pleasure of bringing my wife with me. And it was an organization called the Daniel Summit. Is where it was. It was actually an MVNU alum put this on, but it was really it's the intersection of faith and sports. How do we do our jobs well, while also, in a sense, using our platform for Christ, doing things excellent in a athletic world that is corrupt, really. And I'll say the motivation I have is really focusing on the life of Daniel in the Bible. He was the best at what he did.
Yeah.
But he worshiped God. Everybody else is worshiping the king. And he was so good at what he did, though, people respected him, even though he was an outcast, really, in his belief system. Yeah. And I just think for me, I want to do well. I want to be the best at what I do, not because I want the glory. I really think that when you're really good at what you do, people take notice. They start to ask questions. And again, that's where that, athletics being used as a platform for Christ. That guy's different. That program's different. That school's different. That family's different. They start to ask questions about that. And I'm not even close to being there. Right. And so, but that's what I'm striving towards. So that's what motivates me is, I really want to reach people for Christ, and I want to continue to use my platform for that. Yeah.
That's really cool. Do your kids play sports?
They do. They do. Yeah. My son he plays soccer and runs track.
Cool.
My daughter plays volleyball, and does a little swimming, a little bit of track too, but mainly volleyball.
Is it hard to not push them to NVNU, or do you let that be their choice? Like, how do you balance that?
So I always want them to know there is no pressure to come to NVNU. There is no pressure to play sports in college. But I don't want them to settle either. I don't want them to think that they can't come to NVNU. Can't play sports in college. Yeah. I want them to continue to work hard. I would love for them to come to NVNU, but I want that to be their choice. Yeah, to come. But they know, and I tell them that. They know that, but I'll keep reminding them that I don't want them to feel any pressure, because people outside of our house do ask that. Hey, you guys, you going to MVNU? You're gonna play soccer over there? You know, your dad's the AD. Well, has nothing to do with it. They need to earn it. Yeah, for sure.
That's cool.
Chip, speaking of your kids, talk to us about how you have managed being the AD at MVNU and also investing in your family.
Yeah. Well, I'll say that I have a lot of help from our coaches, a lot of help from our staff on campus. I can communicate. I do have to plan well in advance, but even before I came here, you know, I was at my daughter's volleyball. She had some open gym tournament over in Hilliard, and so I planned it in advance to be able to do that. But I always try to be visible and present at their, not just athletics, but you know, choir or wherever it might be. I always want to be present for that, as long as I can be. But sometimes I have to I ask others on campus, can they fill in for me at a game? And everybody's always willing to do it. So I'm thankful for that. We really try to help each other out. What specifically
do you do at a game?
Well,
you just look important and
look important. No, not at all. A lot of time. So we're required to have an administrator on site, just in case something were to go wrong. So we always need somebody there as a go-to person in case of a medical emergency or something like that. Yeah. So we always need somebody there. It's usually me, but our coaches can fill in and things like that. Yeah.
Does that mean you get to do CPR, defibrillators? All
we have an athletic trainer for that. But I will be very quick to call emergency if needed.
Man, always wanted to use paddles on somebody.
What?
Sorry, it's morbid.
You can be the supervisor for youth nights.
There you go.
There you go. You can be there.
No, thankfully we have a great athletic training staff for that. Thankfully,
let's talk about let's get personal.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's talk about your daily routines. Like when you think about your routine throughout the day, at home, maybe prepping for work, whatever it is. What's one of the most important things you do to get ready for the day?
That's a good question. There's a lot of little things that I do most days. I think probably one of the most important one for me though. So I like coffee. I do. But when I get to the office, usually there might be a few others in there when I get in there, but that 7:15, 7:30, you know, I usually roll in, but I'll take 5 minutes with my cup of coffee. I walk around our building. There's not very many people there, if anyone, outside of the office area, but it's a fairly big building. But I take, this is not my idea. This is a John Gordon, John Gordon plug, but he said that he always does gratitude walks. And so, but with my coffee in the morning, I'll just walk through our building for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and just think about the things that I'm thankful for. He said, you can't be negative and positive at the same time.
Yes.
And so for me, that's a good way to get the day started, is just to be, I'm thankful to be at work. I'm thankful my kids are at school. My wife she's a teacher, thankful she's there. And those are such small things we take for granted until we take time to really think about it. But that's probably one of the most important things that I do throughout the day or the weeks. Yeah.
I love, if you're at the office at 7:15, what time do you get up?
So my kids are going to school. My wife, they're all up anyway, so I don't need to hang around. But I usually get up around probably 6:15.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now I have to ask, because I can see your veins popping out of your biceps.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, right.
When do you work out?
Yeah. Well, so occasionally it all depends. So my wife and I really enjoy working out together when we can.
Yeah.
But usually we go to a gym and they have different classes. We like to go during the school year, 4:30 in the afternoon if we can. So I'll leave right from work and go over there. And
okay.
If we have games, in the evenings or something, I may try to manipulate that differently and maybe go in the morning instead. But
Will you work out with any of the teams, any of the athletes on campus?
So
some are in the weight room with them.
On occasion. Now, I will say this, that I've actually thought about. I've heard some of the other coaches and ADs from other schools that have kind of jumped in like a running workout or something. Like I would get smoked. There's no question. But I think it just allows them. I've thought about jumping in some this year coming up, but I think it just allows our students to see people in a different way.
Yeah, have
that you still got
access
it.
to you.
Yeah.
You still got it.
Yeah.
You run circles around those athletes, man.
I don't know.
Oh man.
Oh, this is not a personal question, but I just had to ask it. Like, unless you're a D1 athlete, why sports at MVNU?
Yeah, well, that's a really good question. And I'll say, like, for the athletics that we have, it's a high level of competition. There's a lot of really good students. Obviously, you hear about the ones at the D1 level, but man, there's a lot of good talent out there in all the sports. And so, MVNU is a competitive school, and but I think one of the things that really I think is unique to MVNU and a lot of our schools that are like us. We compete in what's called the Crossroads League.
Okay.
It's 10 schools. We're all faith-based schools.
Is that why they called it Crossroads?
Crossroads, yep.
Okay.
It was rebranded back in 2012, I think, 2012 or 13 in that area. But I think for those that are looking for a school where they can compete at a high level, they can do more than just the sport.
Yeah.
And so we have plenty of students that invest all day and all night on their sport. And that, if that's what you want, that's fine. But there's an opportunity for them to excel outside of their sport at MVNU.
That's good.
There's a little bit of space for time in their academics and in internships and things of that nature. And so I think it's a really good balance of a high level competition, but also not being completely 100% just an athlete.
Yeah.
You are a student athlete at MVNU, get involved in student life activities. We want our students to be campus students, right? We want them to be involved on the campus outside of their sport. And that you have an opportunity if you choose that.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
No, it's really good.
Oh man, we have to do Hope or Nopes.
I know we have a couple Hope or Nopes to wrap up this episode.
But before we do,
oh yeah,
we have to plug MVNU.
Yeah, absolutely.
We are all graduates from Mount Vernon Nazarene University. And by the way, like, man, it's a great school. Great things are happening there. We're excited for the future. But if you are a student watching this, if you're on the TikToks,
all right.
See what I did there?
That sounds really cool and relevant.
I wasn't trying to be cool or relevant. But if you're a student, definitely check it out. We'd love to connect you with MVNU and Chip, by the way, if you're interested in sports.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this too. Just so I'm a MVNU grad in 2004, but I remember coming in as an 18-year-old. I thought that was going to be the best 4 years of my life. But what I have found now, so I'm 42 years old. I'm going to throw it out there. But I really feel like MVNU set me up. It really set me up for the best years of my life.
Sure.
At that moment, those 4 years was fantastic. I felt invested in. We're still doing that with our students. We want to invest and give value to them. But I really feel like it allowed me to take a step further in my faith, to take a step further in my personal development, and really become hopefully I'm continuing to become the husband, the dad, the worker, whatever that I am, and largely because of MVNU. Really thankful for that time. Yeah,
that's really good. So let's wrap up the episode with some Hope or Nopes. And the first one is, how do you feel about? Is there hope for Brad Thompson as a roommate? So if you didn't hear the last episode, Brad and Chip were roommates in college, and so what would you say for that one?
Oh, definitely hope. Definitely hope.
Okay.
Yeah, Brad keeps things clean.
Yeah.
All right. So good roommate. No, definily.
That's fair.
Definitely hope.
Does he have questionable taste in music though, or did you guys get along?
I tend to like what he likes. Yeah. I believe it or not. Yeah. I don't know about what's going on in the office recently, but again, we used to get along pretty well with
Brad
the music.
wanted us to install speakers in the hallways of our office.
That is true.
So that we could all listen to music all the time.
All the time.
Okay.
No one got on board with that because
Nobody wants to come into a silent office.
no one has the same brain as you do. Like, we don't want the music blasting all the time, but it is a fun idea.
It's a good
and
idea.
stuff. So, but would you be the ultimate DJ of that if we ever do install those?
No, I'd let you do it.
Okay.
Brad may not get any work done if there's music playing. He might just be singing in his
That's
head all
fair.
day. It
That's
might be,
fair.
so.
That's fair. All right. The last one is, do you have any cool name drop moments from your time at Mount Vernon or just your time as growing up?
Name drop moments. Well, I'll say, so MVNU is the home of, Tim Belcher, a #1 draft pick, MLB.
Okay. I was like, tell me what sport.
This is going back, baseball, going back to the early 80s, but he was #1 draft pick in the early 80s there. And so from our very own Mount Vernon Nazarene University. So he's still active in the area and connected to the college. And
that's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah. But there's one more.
One more. Well, I told these guys,
you got to do it.
All right. Hey, well, so I did have an opportunity. So it's been probably 10 to 12 years ago, but had an opportunity to play a little basketball with Kyrie Irving. And so,
That's so cool.
Yeah,
My kids
yeah. It was
all the time.
a pickup style. It was all staged. It was for a promotional event, so it wasn't. We had some photo ops, but yeah, it was a pretty cool event. Yeah.
So
it was
basically,
up
they're
in
best
Cleveland.
friends. So.
Yeah, so basically we're best friends. Yeah, yeah.
Basically, no big deal. But hey, we're so grateful that you took time to listen and to watch today. Make sure that you like and subscribe and share with everyone in your sphere of influence, and we'll see you back here during the next episode.